Before we attach our front to our back, we're going to take out the 2 lines of basting, and we're going to use a seam ripper to do that. Now this one's closed up and the handle is on the outside to cover the pointed part. Unfortunately, a lot of times students don't use the handle, they put it down somewhere and it disappears, so all you have is this part to work with. Instead of doing that, if you are given one that has both pieces, take it apart, put this part in there, don't jam it in, it should stay, and then when you're finished, put it back like this. That's the safest way to handle this. So sometimes this part is clear and this part is colored. This one just happens to be all white. Okay, so we used a different color thread so it would show up easier. And what I'm going to do is take the point of my seam ripper and put it underneath a few of these stitches along here. And then I should be able to take the thread at the end and give it a tug and it'll pull out. And then I've got that little thread there, I can pull that out. So technology is wonderful as long as it does what you want it to do, and my camera was giving me problems, so I had to start over again. I've taken part of this out and I want to take the last little bit out, so point of your seam ripper, and if it works better in your hand, do that. Just be really careful because this is very, very sharp right here. And pop that thread. And then usually if you can get underneath one or more of them, you can get a tail that's big enough to pull them out. Now I might be able to pull this last bit out, I don't know. I might have to tear a little bit more out before I can. Oh, it all came out. Now, I have another thread though, because that was only the one that was on this side. I need to come over here to here and see if I can find the blue one. And maybe it's not sticking out anywhere, so I'm going to leave it there. It won't hurt anything at all for it to live inside of there. Maybe one of these days it'll fall out, but that's okay. There's nothing on here now. And if you see this, look at here, I got my little fake fly. My hand goes underneath there. Now, we need to take out the one on this side here. We have to be really careful that we don't pull out any of our top stitching. So do it really, really carefully. Sometimes you can get underneath here and grab that knot that started the whole thing, but that one looks like it's jammed in with the other stitching, so I'm just going to cut that off so it doesn't come out to haunt us. And then very, very carefully, remember this side up here doesn't have a knot, so I'm going to try to pop it. And if you notice, sometimes these don't want to come out at the same time. They want to come out separately. That one of them must be caught on something. Oh, there it is. Let's see if we can get that out of there. All right, got it. The main thing is that when you do this kind of ripping, you have to be careful that you're only getting underneath your basting stitches and you're not pulling any of your top stitching. And if you notice, what keeps happening is I'll pull it and then one of them will get stuck and it'll break, and that's because it's underneath one of your top stitches, and that's the only way you can get it out, is if you just break it. And I'm talking about breaking your basting, not breaking your top stitching, because that would be so sad. You'd have to take it all out and do it over again. Top stitching like this you really want to do in one line without any back stitching in the middle, otherwise it looks really bad, and I generally make students take the whole thing out and redo it. So that's why I caution you to be so careful when you are stitching, to go slow and make sure it's nice and straight. It is hard to start and stop in the middle of a line of top stitching and not have it make a huge nasty mess on the front. It can be done, but it's very, very tricky. Now, this one doesn't like me right here. Let me see if I can get it from this side. What I want to do is pick it up and put it real close to my eyes, because I have trouble seeing it at this distance, but that wouldn't help you see what I was doing if I have it up by my face. Alrighty, it's still giving me trouble, so I'm going to come down here a little bit farther and see if I can pop that one. Maybe that will loosen this up. Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to come down here a little farther. I'm getting aggravated with that part. That's the thing. When you're working on something like this, and it's at the point where it's really aggravating you, don't keep picking at it, because sometimes that's when you end up getting frustrated and pulling out the wrong thread. So that's loose enough now. I might be able to get that pulled to the front, or from the front to the back, and then I can just cut it off on that side. I got one more thread down here that doesn't, there it went. Okay, and this part I can just take I don't have my scissors with me right now, but I can just take my scissors and clip that off. I'll do that in a second. And then I'm going to actually stop right here and finish doing this on my own, because I really want to put it up closer to my eyes. But you do have to take it all out, make sure that there aren't any loose threads, take your hand and brush them all off. And then before you go on to the next step, which is putting the back and the front together, take this over to the ironing board and just give this one nice good press along here. Make sure all of this is really good and flat. Okay? And then we are ready to put the sides together. Or if you're going to put in the inseam pockets, the next thing that you do is the inseam pockets.